Greetings, my fellow humanoid dwellers. I create videos on technology and other random things. If you like this video, you might like others. If you don't like this video, you still might like others. Consider subscribing to my channel or checking out my Patreon page. If you already subscribe, hit that bell. In this video, we're going to pick up where we left off in the last video. In the last video, we wrote directly to a file on the Raspberry Pi itself or on the server so we could store the data even if we were to refresh the browser. The HTML won't change in this. The CSS won't change in this. The only thing we're going to change is the PHP. In the PHP file, we had to put the fread in front of the fwrite in order to make it work. For some reason it failed when we had it the other way around. And using the A+, we can both read and write the file. After doing some research, it's not advised that you do that you do a read right after a write because of the timing issues. We're going to change the file name to get rid of all the caps, just so it's easier going forward. We're going to check to make sure that the tempreadings.txt file exists. So we need to know if it exists, so we're going to test for that. And if it exists, we pull the data from it. If it doesn't exist, then we're going to create an array to put into it. We're just going to go ahead and delete this line for now. So we're just going to test. And if statements test if something is true or not. So if, I'm going to put some curly braces, and then we're going to have an else. So if it doesn't exist, we're going to do something else. So for right now, if it exists, we're going to echo yes. And if it doesn't exist, we're going to echo no. And for right now, we're going to go ahead and comment out these lines down here. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the web page so we can show you what we had before. The way we left it was it would collect the data and it would continue to write data after data. And if we refreshed it, the 3 points should come back along with more points because it's continuing to collect the data in the background. In order to stop collection, you have to leave the web page because right now JavaScript is initiating the collection of the data. So if we're not on it and we had 5 data points collected, I'm going to wait, I'm going to time lapse this and wait about 20 seconds and we'll go back to it and we'll see that even after that time where it should have collected multiple points, it didn't. And see, we only have collected so many more. Now I'm going to go ahead and upload that file up, which in this case we're not going to be writing any more data to this, but I want to show you with the file there it should say yes, and then when I delete the file it should say no. And it says no. I would have expected yes because I hadn't deleted the file, but I remember that I changed the case, so it's not seeing lowercase temp. It's seeing uppercase temp. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to change the name of the file to uppercase so that we can get a yes. I can do that in FileZilla or whatever file transfer program you're using. You can rename a file. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now and we'll come back and I'll refresh the page. I've changed it and now it says yes. So now I'm going to go back and I'm actually going to delete the file and it should go back to no. It shouldn't give me an error. It should just say no because the file doesn't exist. And now it should change to no. No. So now the file doesn't exist. So that part is working. Now we're testing for the file. If it exists, we're going to do one thing. If it doesn't exist, we're going to do the other. We're going to start with if it doesn't exist. So we'll go ahead and comment out these 2 lines. And now what we want to do is if the file doesn't exist, we want to create an array and we want to insert that array into the file. And this is creating temps as an array. And then we may want to pad the array. We may want to put a bunch of data in it. So we're going to set up a for loop and add some more ones. And when you want to put something on the front of an array, you unshift it. And then you put the array and what you want to put on it. So as long as it's less than 4, so 1 through 3, so we're going to add 1, 2, and 3, 3 more 1s, we'll have a total of 5 to that array. And then we're going to do just like we did it before. We're going to go ahead and open the file, but we're going to change it to a W instead of the A+, because all we're going to do is write to it in this case. And we're going to write what we just created, the temp string. But really it's not a string, it's an array. So what we want to do is we want to take the array and we want to turn it into a string. And we use the implode keyword to do that. The implode keyword wants you to identify something you want to separate each value in the array with, and we're going to use the comma. And then you identify the array that you want to implode. So what it's going to do is it's going to write into this temp file all these values separated by a comma. And then we're going to close it. And now we want to go ahead and we want to write these temps back to the JavaScript. But we don't want to do it just an array. We want to encode it. If we send it as JSON format, then the JavaScript will be able to read it as JSON format. So it's just JSON and encode. We could have JSON encoded the temp file or the temps here and put it into the temp file, and then we could have JSON decoded it later when we opened it. But I thought it would be interesting to show two different ways of accomplishing something. We actually shouldn't get any data from our temperature at this point. We should just be getting our 5 ones. Okay, before I do this, I did have to delete the current temp readings.txt file if there is one in there, because if it is there, it's not going to do anything. We're only looking at the case if it's not. Now we will set it up if it is there later, but in this case you can't have it on the server. So if in your file transfer you see it on the Raspberry Pi side, make sure you delete it. And we're going to go ahead and go to it and see what we get. And there we go. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Oh, and then we get null. Because what happened was 3 seconds later it went back through it and it did the other steps, which I'll go back and refresh on that. So what it did is it went through there, it created the file, it created a temps variable, and then it encoded that temps variable. And then the second time it came through, it saw that that file existed. It did not create a temps variable or a temps array, and so that when it got down here it said null because this doesn't exist. So in step 3 we're going to go ahead and put the code in for what we're going to do if it does exist. And in this case we're going to go ahead and open the temp reading in a read only so that we can populate the array. In this case we're just going to read only on this one, so we'll just put an R. It's important here that we use the same variable, because that way when we pass down to here we'll have it. So we're gonna use temps again, and we're gonna read. We're gonna leave it at 200. We're gonna end up having a problem with this later, because if each value we read is 6 characters and we want to read 75 of them in the end, we're gonna eclipse this 200. But I'm gonna leave it like this because I'm not even 100% sure what's gonna happen if we go past that, and I'd like to find out. And since we read it, we're gonna go ahead and close the file. Temps now is in a string because the file is just a string, but it's value, comma value, comma value. So now we want to, where we imploded it before to take the array and put it into a string, now we're going to explode it back out. So we're going to make temps, we're going to change the value of temps and make it equal to the exploded value. In this case it's going to ask for what we've separated the values with, which is the comma, and then it's going to ask for the array. Now what it's going to do is it's going to take that same value and store it into temp. So now what we should see is we should get the exact same results over and over and over again. There, this is the first time through it created it. Now 3 seconds later we should get the same value. I'm going to go ahead and refresh it. And we do, we get the same one. Now what we need to do is we need to go ahead and insert the actual temperature somewhere in here. So I'm going to delete this comment because we're not going to read it in this way. And just like on this line up here, down here we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do it into temp, or temps. We're going to do the substring of the file content, and we're going to get 5 characters, just like we did before. So this should just be, every time we pass through here, this should add it to the beginning of the temp file. And the temp file should grow and grow and grow and grow forever. And we'll have to address that because we don't want it to grow and grow forever. But let's just, once again, let's just pause, make sure we've got everything right. And I did not go back, so it just kept collecting the data, but it is giving us what we would expect. And in a way, it's also working because it's transferring the data to the JavaScript, because it wouldn't be displaying on here if it wasn't transmitting the data. So I'm going to go back. This time I'm going to go back so it stops collecting data. Now what we want to do is we want to limit the length that the array can grow to. And if it doesn't exist at all, it's fine down here. We can set this length to whatever, because it's only going to do this once. It's going to be if the array exists, or if the file exists, that we want to control the size of it. So at the end, after we've exploded it and turned it into an array, we'll check the size of it. A while loop will run as long as the condition is true. So we're going to go ahead and set this size at 20. We want to make sure that it stays below this 200. So 20 times 6 is only 120 characters. So if I'm off a little bit there, we should be fine. You can use the count keyword to determine the length of your array. In this case, when it's less than 19, or while it's greater than 19, so 20 and above, we want it to delete data from the back end of the array. You use the keyword array pop to remove data. In order to test this a little bit better, and so we don't have to wait as long, I'm going to go ahead and up this to 15. So that'll set this entire length at about 17. So it'll only have to add a couple before it starts to remove. And I think instead of adding the 1, I think we'll go ahead and we'll add X. That way we'll be able to see different numbers in the array, so we'll see them move through as they remove. I also deleted the file on there, so it should create the new one first time through, and then after that, then it should start adding data. So there we've got our long array, and we should see these should vanish after a few. And there, see, we only have 1, 1. Now that 1 should be gone, and this data should start filtering through, and we're limited to 20 or so variables. Now we currently have our data recording just like we did before, only this time the array is going to be stored on our server side. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take this total array package, send it to JavaScript, decode it in JavaScript, and display it over there. I'm going to go back to the code now just to go over where we're going on that side. Now in the JavaScript file over here, what we're going to do is we're going to create an array, take the response text, load the array, and then use this code that we already have to populate the graph again. And that's about it for this video. Thanks for watching.